I wanted to come back to you because when I was looking at your profile, you said something about inner peace, and I actually heard your podcast episodes surrounding that. And you said back in 2018, so that would mean you've been coaching for a few years. So, and one thing I think about with like coaching with therapists is that we're all humans at the end of the day, which I understand. But we also, those like people like yourself and like therapists and so on, they have the tools usually to address things like that, right? So what was going on in 2018 that you realized that even with the tools you had, you're just going through a phase in life that that inner peace wasn't there, that inner peace wasn't missing, you weren't very comfortable. Could you walk us through like how was that experience and why did it
Mm-hmm.
become such a priority?
So I realized, as I said in the beginning with coaching, you don't know your niche, you don't know, you're just trying things out and see if they're working. And even though from the outside you might look very successful, from within there is a conflict. You're putting something out there, no results, or not as fast as you've been promised, right? Because there is a lot of glamour around so many careers, and especially with coaching, it looks like a glamorous career at first. And then there's some disappointment that happens because you don't know the reality. And not being trained as a marketing professional, not being trained as a salesperson, those skills I was missing. But even though I was very glad to learn and to try things out, I still felt that I wasn't doing enough, and I was working all the time and not having clear boundaries with my work time. I was working on weekends. I was working when the inspiration came. And but still I had a lot of inner critics in my head. But I realized at that time, 2018, that the business didn't take off. And I realized at some point, you know what? I'm my worst boss ever, because I was so tough on myself. No rewards, no acknowledgments, no celebration. Like super bad boss, right? And that's where it hit me. I was like, well, I either I quit or I change something. And even though I wanted to quit, and to be honest, I applied to different jobs, in the field of personal development, leadership development, just to see if I get hired or not. But then this coaching, once you start doing it and it's matching your personality and your character, doesn't want to go away. So that's when I had a friend. I knew him for maybe 2 3 years, and we were more or less in the same coaching communities. I knew his professional development, the trainings he has taken. So I trusted him. So I've reached out to him and I said, okay, can you help me with this? After a few sessions, we have agreed to work together, but it was like my main focus, inner peace, definitely. And most importantly, to get in touch with my wisdom. Because most of the time we hear the messages from outside and, the shiny objects, they're so shiny. We kind of chase them. So my main focus was inner peace paired with my wisdom, to be able to quiet my mind, quiet my thoughts, to listen to myself, so then I can make the decisions that seem good for me.
Yeah. And I think something you mentioned that was very, very interesting about that you trusted the coach that you worked with. You had that trust, and we're coming back to the inner peace in a sec. But for like from a coaching perspective, if someone wants to work with a coach, how important is that factor that you trust your coach? Because I think if a coach, if you don't, I think if you don't connect with a coach on a personal level, no matter how good the tools I have, I can help you with are, it's just, you're not going to get the results that you truly want. Would you agree?
It's very important to trust the person that you're speaking with, and otherwise you're not going to ask for the help that you actually need.
Okay.
And because coaching is still a new profession, even though it's been for so many years, Most people don't understand the dynamics. They come to the coach saying like, you guide me, you tell me what to do, whereas more is like asking, revealing the answer that the client. That's why my main focus was to quiet my mind so that I could listen my wisdom, not my coach's wisdom. And so I knew very clear what I wanted out of that coaching um, conversation.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. And something you said that I think a lot of people go through is on the outside, everything can look great. But like you said correctly, on the inside, it could be, just confusion and, sadness, anger, depression. All these things could be bottled up inside, but, from the outside, everything looks fine. So for you to go on that journey to really start to understand like what's going on like inside, I think is something that I always recommend people to like do, and whatever, however you want to do it, with therapy, with coaching, whatever you think is the best way for you to start understanding what's going on, I think is super useful. And you worked with a coach for a couple months, and would you say, how did you feel at the end of it? Would you say you achieved the goal of like truly having inner peace, or do you think inner peace is something that it's not a destination, but it's kind of like a journey that you find it, but then you have to like work at like maintaining it. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
So, like, before I answer that question, another thing that I want to mention here is for an introvert or for most people asking for help, it's so vulnerable, it's so hard to do. So, I was just patting myself on the back for the courage I took to reach out. Even though I'm working in this field of personal development, professional development, it's still hard at times to ask for help and to be so vulnerable, so open to bare your heart to another person to witness you. So to acknowledge that it's not an easy task to do that.
Mm,
And for the inner peace part, that's where I was a bit confused because like mentally I understood that. So it was middle of 2019 now. Mentally I understood my thoughts process, my wisdom was clear to me, and I had those shifts, the mood shifts that were like really puzzling what's happening. And even on that podcast episode, by chance, I got an invitation to do a vitamin D test, and that's how I've learned that my vitamin D levels were very, very low. And actually, that was one of the causes of my mood shifts. And because the deficiency was so severe, my doctor put me on injections, not the pills, because the pills take a longer time to absorb. So, because of that, because of the injections, I felt the shift. And I was like, oh my God. I was so happy, to be honest, because first of all, there was like a clear answer of what was happening. It was like, oh, it's not only in my head, right? So I was lucky in that respect that I could have a diagnostic, because a lot of people might not get to that clarity, right?
yeah.
And after the treatment, I started getting better. And what can I say? I recommend everybody who's shifting mood so fast, because 1 second I was fine, the next one I was like so sad,
Yeah.
and I felt everything because I'm also like feeling everything at a higher intensity.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.